I'm walking down the road, and I'm thinking, this cannot be happening. Not when we had a plan. It was a foolproof plan. And you see, it started with the headline that promised over 5,000 summer jobs to open in Cape Cod for college students. I was a college student. My roommate was a college student. We were both sophomores, and we both needed a summer job. Not 5,000, just 2. That seemed like great odds. We let anyone else have the others. And so even though we'd never been to Cape Cod, we didn't know anyone in Cape Cod, we didn't have a lead on a job, we just figured we would go, and it would happen. We bought a bus ticket, and I had like $200 left over, and my roommate had exactly nothing left over. And we basically, here's where the plan came in, and this is where it gets really smart. You'll see in a sec. When it turned out that Cape Cod wasn't just a single place, like the bus driver was asking for something more specific about where we wanted to get off, and we had no idea. We were like, Cape Cod. And he's like, yeah, where in Cape Cod? And I said, well, where would you go? And so anyway, he kind of shook his head when he heard that we were going to try to find a job and a place to live when we got there. So he said, well, I'll just take you to this main strip in Yarmouth. So that's where we were let off, and it was a main strip where basically it was just this huge road, and it was filled with hotels, nightclubs, and restaurants on pretty much every single block. And it was perfect. And we went into every single place with our little resume. And apparently, if there really were 5,000 jobs that had opened up, like 5,002 had already been there. Because everybody said, we don't have a job, we have nothing. But they all agreed to take our resume and to keep it on file in case something came up. And then we watched them stick it in a really large pile of resumes. It's very discouraging. And by the end, I mean, we had walked literally 2 miles down each side and then back and got nothing. And that's when I was thinking, this can't be happening. I mean, we're going to be like homeless and without a job. And I didn't mind one or the other, but being both was very worrisome. And it's not, I was trying to tell myself, well, it's a beach, so if I don't have a place to stay, I can just sleep on the beach. But they actually don't appreciate that in Cape Cod. They do not allow you to do that, I found out. So the one place that we'd gone into where they'd mentioned the slightest job availability was a 7-Eleven. And mind you, I had just gone in there to get a Slurpee, and I just out of curiosity asked if they had any jobs open. It was just a lark, because I figured that was way beneath. I mean, I was beyond 7-Eleven days. I mean, I was a waitress, so. And anyway, but the guy who was the owner there, his name was Tony Morrow, he had informed me that he had some openings on the late night shift, the 11 to 7 shift. But he said, I want to hold that off for men, because it's pretty, things get kind of wild on the late night shift. And we've been held up a few times. I don't want any women getting hurt on my watch, he says. And at the time, when I was just asking as a lark, I had taken that as on face value. But when I was desperate, I went back to Tony Morrow and the 7-Eleven, and I said, look, we can take care of ourselves. We can handle ourselves. And, you don't have a very 80s attitude, frankly. I said, so here's what we'll do. I said, we will work the first night shift you have open. We'll work it for free. And if everything goes well, you give us a job. If things don't go so well, you just had a free night of work. So he agrees. And we started working, and everything was fine. People are reasonable. I mean, yes, you get a lot of drunk people, especially after like the 2 o'clock closing times. All the guys who couldn't get anywhere with the women at the bars hit on the 7-Eleven girl. It's a little obnoxious. I once had to stop a guy. I saw this guy in a mirror put an entire foot-long sub down his pants. And then he came up to the register with like a little carton of chocolate milk, and he wanted to pay for the chocolate milk. So I rang him up like $25. And he was like, what? For a thing of milk? And I was like, well, first of all, there's the sandwich you have down your pants. And he gave me this kind of guilty sideways look and said, what's him? I'm like, please, let's not embarrass each other, all right? I'm pretty sure you don't want to take down your pants. I'm pretty sure you're not that big. Like, let's just... And he's like, well, but I thought the sandwich was like $5. Like, yeah, well, we also have an asshole fee. And he paid it. The guy paid it. So I did fine on the late night shift. Everything was golden. And the other thing was, we were only like a block from the police department. And so, we had the button that you push, that you call, and it goes directly to them, and police show up. And they were in and out of the store all the time for their donuts and whatever. So I really wasn't worried. I also thought, we had the sign up on the door that says, there's never more than $60 in cash in the register. And that's true, people, in case you were thinking about robbing a 7-Eleven. That's actually true. So I really didn't sweat it. And this one night, I was there with my roommate, Pam, and it had hit the 4 o'clock hour, which is totally dead. And so she was going to go to the back and do all the stocking. And that left me to do the front cleanup work. And just as I was starting, I come around the counter. This guy suddenly is just there. I didn't even hear a little bell chime on the door. I did have the music cranked a little loud from my chores, but there was this guy who came in. And all of a sudden, he's there, and I hear this kind of shaky voice say, "I want all your money now." And I look up, and by God, he has a gun. And the gun is kind of shaking in his hand a little bit like this. And the thing is, I didn't think to myself at the time, oh, he's on something, and he could be really dangerous. What I thought was inept. So, because how stupid do you have to be to rob a 7-Eleven that's right by the police? So I go around the counter, and, the first thing I do, real sly, is I push the little call the police button that's under the counter. And then I prepare to help him, thinking I'm just going to stall him, for a couple minutes or something. And I said, I'm sorry now, what was that I could do for you? And he's like, "Don't mess around. Give me all the money." And what he actually said was, "Give me all your money." I was like, "My money?" "No, the store's money, you know what I mean?" And I'm like, well, that's good, because we'd really have a problem if you want my money, because I have nothing. But anyway, so I opened the cash register, and I showed him, I think it was $30-some, which was actually pretty good. I mean, he was pretty lucky. There was that much in there. There was over 20. And he was furious. And he's like, no, not that money. I want the money that's in the safe. And it is true. We have a safe. But you have to understand, which I explained to him, this is a deposit-only situation. I do not have the key that opens a safe. Where's the key? I said, it happens to be around the neck of a very large Italian man named Tony Morrow, who I'm told is connected to the mafia. But if you would like, I'd be happy to give you directions to his house. You can go wake him up, get the key, and then you can take care of what you want. And he's furious, and he says, and again, the gun is shaking pretty wildly. And he says, well, you have to have some way to get money out of there. What if you need money? I'm like, oh yeah, let me show you. And I push the thing for a roll of pennies. And it comes out eventually. I hand it to him. Here you go. Pennies. I don't want pennies. And I said to him, well, now that's a problem, because you're going to have to wait another 20 minutes before you can get a roll of quarters. And that's the highest thing we have. And now he's really angry at me. But at this point is also when the police happen to come in. It's a male and female officer who I know. They're partners. Not, romantic partners, just police partners. And they come in, and they have their guns drawn. And all of a sudden, I find myself being grabbed around the neck and having a gun held to my head. And this just pisses me off, I have to tell you. I have had a long day. I'm working 3 jobs now, because we managed to find 2 other crappy jobs. So I'm working 3 jobs. I'm hardly ever sleeping. And this guy is wasting my time, and I'm supposed to be getting chores done, And it's one of these things where he actually says to the cops, it's like a line out of the movies, I'll shoot her if you come a step closer. And I'm just like, really? Please shoot him. Just shoot him now, is what I say. But the cops seem hesitant to do that. I guess they're taking him a little more seriously than I am. So eventually, I just get so tired of it that I literally reach up and grab his wrist and pull it down. And the cops come around, and he falls to the ground, and they get him, and they take him off in handcuffs, and they're really happy about it. And it's only until after it happens that I kind of realize, I maybe could have gotten killed. That maybe wasn't very smart what I did. And just then, my roommate comes out from the back. She's been stalking all this time. And you can't hear anything when you're back there stalking. And she takes a look at the front, which is still a mess. And she's like, you haven't done anything. What have you been doing this whole time? And I'm like, well, there was a guy who came in with a gun who was holding me up. And she's like, you know what, if you don't want to do your work, just tell me you don't want to do your work. So she starts cleaning doing my job. And it's not until the next day when Tony Morrow comes in at the end of our shift, and he tells me he's going to give me $1 an hour raise because I stopped someone from robbing his store. And he doesn't like it when people rob his store. So, and he also apologized to me for initially thinking that a man was the best man for the job. So, that's my story.